We were just talking about elections, fam. Do you want to jump on into this right now?
Yeah, we can start with the elections in Bolivia that have been actually really, really good for socialism. So Evo Morales was celebrating because he, the power of the people actually helped produce this victory. And of the MAS, the Movement Towards Socialism, the party of Evo Morales and the socialist movement, and they not only won the presidency but the majority. So they're coming back, fam. They're coming back, and this is because of all the the power of the. You
want to read that people. Tweet right there? It says, "Sisters and brothers, the will of the people has been imposed. There has been a resounding victory for the MAS-IP." SP. Our political movement will have a majority in both houses. We have returned millions. Now we are going to restore dignity and freedom to the people. Does that say, I can't see the blue, does that say Jalalala? How do you say that?
I can't see it. So.
Jalala, Bolivia.
Okay, don't try to say things, man.
How do you say it?
I couldn't see it, so I didn't know.
Well, now say it.
I can't see it. It's gone.
Jallala, Bolivia.
I don't. Jall.
All right. So let's talk about Ali Vargas over here.
So Ali, no, you're like such a gringo.
I took a stab at it though.
No,
come on.
No. Ali Vargas is an independent journalist who has been covering the elections and in Bolivia. And he was talking about yesterday how the exit polls were showing that Bolivia's movement towards socialism led to them winning the first round with 52.4% of the vote. And this is higher than what Evo Morales had in 2019. So what basically happened was that these two were thinking they were going to be the top two and that they were going to be able to oust the MAS person, but it didn't work out for them.
Yeah.
So,
but you add those scores together, 31.5 and 14.1, and that's still only 45.6.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? How would you say his name? I don't want to say it wrong. Arce, the leader?
Oh, Arce. Yeah.
Arce? Yeah. He blew him out. That's a big victory right there, fam.
Yeah. And let's go on to the next one.
Right there.
So Camila, who from Telesur, she's been breaking this up for a while, so she has the straight percentages down. Luis Arce had 52.4, Carlos Mesa, which is the guy they were counting on, 31.5, and Fernando Camacho at 10.5. Like you said, if you add those up, it still doesn't add up. So we can watch a little bit of their video if you guys want.
Luis Arce del MAS obtiene un 52.4% de la votación. En segundo lugar ha quedado Carlos Mesa de Comunidad Ciudadana con 31.5%. Luis Fernando Camacho ha quedado en tercer lugar con el 14.1% de la votación esta jornada. Chi Hyun Chun tiene 1.6% de la votación y Feliciano Mamani tiene 0.4% de la población. Repetimos.
Good.
All right. So Camila also took some videos of people dancing in the streets. Let's take a look at that.
Yeah, and play it through because at the end they get the good chant.
Jamás será vencido, el pueblo unido, jamás será vencido, el pueblo unido. Más, más.
Huh.
Awesome. And I wanted to post this as well, that Evo Morales had actually announced that Luis Arce will be the next president. And he broke the news that the MAS party had won the majority in both houses. And this was, of course, according to their own electoral count system. So apart from the regular counting system that Bolivia has, that party itself has formed their own backup system to make sure that the votes match. And I wanted to point that out because as election people, I think every single person that runs against anybody should have their own system to make sure that that matches up to what the official count is.
Yeah.
Because
well, they have
that way
exit
you can
polls
question
too.
it.
They have exit polls too here. As soon as the exit polls got a hand away from the establishment when it was kind of uncovering their screwery or whatever you want to call it, they eliminated the exit polls. Exit polls are another big way too as well.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing. That's not the same thing as having like a ballot counting system. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but when you talk about an individual party or a person, they can't have their own counting system within their system. They can only do.
They do.
I'm saying in America, you can't do that. You know what I'm saying? You can have an app, but
you can have an app.
Yeah,
though.
but it's not gonna plug into the actual counting system that the state has or what has. You know what I'm saying? So you have to find other ways.
No, obviously it's not.
You can do it through exit polls that are very solid.
But that's my whole point. It's something that you should be able to do, because if they have nothing to fear, why wouldn't you?
Well, you need open source, insight, auditing. You need the whole 9 yards. You have to have complete transparency across the board. So yeah, I mean, we need it, but I don't know how close we will to get it. Is there a video you want to play here?
Yeah. So let's just. Yeah, he is. You can just play a little bit.
El alumno Lucho será nuestro presidente.
So he's just saying Luis Arce is going to be the next president.
A nuestra patria, al camino de la desarrollo económica, política, desarrollo social y especialmente aportará al crecimiento económico. A la distancia, quiero hacer llegar a mis hermanos Lucho y David mis más sinceras felicitaciones.
He's congratulating them.
Where is he at?
He's not in Bolivia.
I know. Where? Where? He's in Argentina. Okay. No? All right. I know he's not in Bolivia, so I'm hoping that he'll get a chance to go back to his homeland. That would be great. The fact that what they did to him.
Go after him.
Probably, I mean,
the
maybe
minute
he
he sets foot in there, they're gonna go after him.
Maybe,
So Janine Áñez was the, the intermittent president, so to speak, the self-imposed
interim.
But she said we do not yet have an official count, but from the data we have, Mr. Arce and Mr. Choquehuanca have won the election. I congratulate the winners and ask them to govern with Bolivia's and democracy in mind. So she actually conceded. So that was there, which is more than I can say that would happen. That's likely to happen in this election that we have coming up in the U.S. Do we have the next one now?
I'm going to get to it. This one here. Right here.
Okay, so this is kind of important, and I wanted to highlight that the Bolivia Supreme Electoral Court, it's known as TSE, withdrew the DIERPRE system and for the system for the decimation of rapid results. In a last-minute decision, Salvador Romero says there will be no preliminary results. So normally what they do, they have this system that has a rapid result counting mechanism to get the results out. People have been complaining about this system, and so they got rid of it, but it was a little late, so people didn't like the fact that they got rid of it that late. Evo Morales was saying that was suspect. Right over here, you can see, I think it's the third tweet down, Johnny. The decision to scrap the preliminary DIEPRE was announced at a TSE press conference, which began at 7:23 p.m. La Paz time. Voting for Bolivians living in the exterior began at 8 p.m. La Paz time in Japan, South Korea, China. And she goes on to say MAS senators demand further explanation for the last-minute suspension of the rapid voting counting system following several announcements by TSE, which claimed that this was a reliable system. Why scrap the system in the 11th hour? So 3 international observation missions invited by the de facto regime meaning the right-wing regime of Áñez, OAS, the Carter Center, UNIOR, express agreement with the unanimous decision of the Electoral Tribunal to suspend the DIEPRE, rapid counting of votes, as the TSE cannot guarantee its optimal functionality. So a lot of people were happy that it was suspended. They just wanted it to be suspended because they'd been asking for a while. They wanted it to be gone for a while. They were kind of suspect that all of a sudden, at the very last minute, they decided to get rid of the system. So I wanted to point that out because I have a feeling we're going to see retaliation of some sort for this. I don't think this is just, they're just going to let this go.
That one you got.
And as it is. So, and Anya Parampal was actually on the scene at a polling location, and this was particularly a school called the Jaime Escalante School in El Alto, Bolivia, and she kind of broke down the voting process. So let's take a look.
I'm here at the Jaime Escalante School in El Alto, just above La Paz, the capital of Bolivia, and I wanted to give you an idea of what the voting process is like here. Outside of the school, there's a long line. People are waiting to have their IDs checked at the door. Once inside, they're told which mesa or voting station they will be voting at. For example, this is Mesa 5, Mesa 5, Mesa 2 right here. At that point, they have their IDs checked again, once again at the mesa, and the individual running the station shows a completely blank ballot in order to ensure that nothing has been tampered with before the individual is given a ballot and then allowed to go inside one of these private rooms where they actually cast their vote, fill out the ballot. They come out, drop their ballot in a box, and then put their thumbprint and a signature on the official list of the mesa to confirm that they were the ones who voted.
So it seems pretty clear.
Thorough. It's kind of like the Venezuela situation.
Yeah.
There's checks and balances, multiple IDs, thumbprint identification. That's how far they're going with that. But that's what they have to do because these countries have always kind of led with the economic leaders or the oligarchs in their countries to overturn these elections and say they weren't fair, whatnot. So they go to extremes to cast their vote over there. That's how much of a civic duty it is over there and how thorough the checks are. Now, the counting process, I'd like to learn a little bit more about that. I haven't looked into Bolivia. I'm too busy looking at the United States counting process, which is so messed up. But that is pretty thorough right there. And if you have a victory right now and they're claiming that, it's hard to overturn something like that. I mean, I don't see any voter fraud there, fam, do you? I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, that's
paper ballots too.
Checks and balances, paper ballots and
balances,
stuff.
yeah.
It's just how do they count them? That's the whole thing. That's the next question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not it's not difficult because, like I said, they had the other system and they got rid of it because they didn't trust it. So at the end of the day, it's really not that difficult. It's just more time consuming to count paper ballots, but you can count them. Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge fan of paper ballots. Ali Vargas said the first tensions break out in Bolivia's elections in the middle class area of Miraflores, La Paz, where Luis Arce just voted. Coup supporters targeted Arce and even journalists. I was called a criminal for filming their aggressive and violent behavior. So let's watch a little bit of what was going on that day.
Mucha tensión fuera del recinto donde acaba de votar Luis Arce Catacora en la zona de Miraflores, en la ciudad de La Paz. Militantes del MAS manifiestan su apoyo, pero también grupos de la derecha muestran su agresión, violencia contra el binomio de MAS. Sí, ¿cómo se puede ver agresiones por parte de grupos de la derecha? Aquí agresiones también hacia la prensa, como se puede observar.
Sí, eso es lo bonito de la democracia. Hay gente que es descontrolada, que no saben agarrar sus emociones y controlarlas. Por otro lado, hay gente coherente, tranquila, que no va a hacer caso a la provocación de la gente descontrolada.
So he's saying there's people who don't know how to control their emotions and are going after people, but there are other people who are, aren't going to let that bother them. So he was just citing the tensions between the two
oppositions
parties
and stuff. Yeah.
Max Blumenthal was also there. He said he visited 7 polling sites with Code Pink's delegation in both pro-Mas and pro-Mesa areas in La Paz today. I witnessed a mundane, fairly efficient process. The issue now is how the vote gets counted and how exit polls will influence the narrative. Been a long wait for those exit polls. So they did have to wait for the exit polls for a while, as you guys can see in the video.
The exit polls are a good backup. I mean, it can get you consistently there. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be anonymous who you are. They just take a tally. So it's not like you're going to be, put under display if you voted for somebody that's not popular in your area. But there's a reason why they eliminated them. And even Max Blumenthal counted out the exit polls, how they do that. They get a little bit of a count. They have some ammunition to say, okay, you're telling us now that Camacho won? Bullstein. We have a little evidence here, and also the counting process too as well. I mean, we have to pay attention to this. If we want to get our election straight down the road, we have to pay very much attention to not just how the ballots are casted, but more importantly, how they're counted, because that's where a lot of fugazi stuff goes around. That's where they got Bernie Sanders twice, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, and if you just go down to the next one, this was a moment where Evo Morales later tweeted, like, what's going on? Because the president, well,
it's okay. I'll get it here for you.
The president, Salvador Romero, said some results were expected soon, but that was, it took them a while to get these results. The Bolivian media was promising exit poll data for the last hour. So they had been waiting for a long time for the polls, and they kind of started freaking out. And then, you know, they've been monitoring the polls, but overall it looked to them like a pretty clear-cut process, especially compared to the United States. Some people were commenting. So the whole crew was there. Ben Norton was there as well. And as far as the aftermath of the election in Bolivia, he said, has been suspicious. Exit polls were supposed to be out 90 minutes ago. They still aren't out. So again, they took a long time. And I'm going over this because it's important for if and when they come back and try to say that something was up. The official website, of course, is run by the Supreme Electoral Tribunal, and it was showing the vote count. And it also crashed and wasn't loading for several minutes. So people were freaking out. He was there at the space where the government plus the plurinational electoral organ, the OEP, was publishing the results. The computers still show the MAS leading with 4% of actas counted, but the system crashed for a few minutes. So it took them a while, and there were a lot of people monitoring, honestly. So I think it's awesome that they were able to monitor. This screenshot in this tweet, which showed 0.48% of the actas, the vote tallies counted, was published after the photo showing 4.37 of the actas counted. The screenshot shows the results posted after the online system crashed. There are many irregularities here. So, like I said, Code Pink had a whole entourage of people come in, including members of the Gray Zone, to monitor the elections. There were also Argentinian observers that came to monitor the elections, and they were all doxxed and persecuted by the far right-wing government. Actually, one of them was detained, and he filmed some of that as well. Ali Vargas continues talking about the results coming in from Argentina, because there's a lot of Bolivians in Argentina, and MAS winning with over 90% in the densely populated areas. Bolivians in Argentina are mostly economic migrants who left due to neoliberal collapse through the 80s and 90s. So this would make sense as to why they would be voting for the MAS, because obviously neoliberalism isn't going to sit well with a lot of the rural workers. In fact, the rural workers are the ones, the indigenous workers, they're the ones that made up the vast majority of that party's support, to be honest. And then, not sure if that's it.
After Ali. There we go. More Camilla. Camilla did some great work out here, didn't she?
Yeah, I mean, she's like the only person other than the Gray Zone.
Telesaur America, baby.
So Evo Copa, MAS, voted via satellite, and El Alto, and is received by both supporters and opponents. She is the highest ranking MAS government figure and is despised by voters in this upper class area, while adored in the rest of El Alto. So El Alto is an upper class area, and she voted there, and she was one of the Senate members who is a member of also the OAS party, which is the party of socialism. So
the MAS?
Yeah.
Can we play a little clip there, Johnny?
I'm in El Alto in an area called Satellite, where the Senate President Eva Copa has just come in to vote. She cast her vote already. There are a lot of people here, a lot of media. There are people chanting both for and against her. So it was a little bit of a hazard as she came in, but she's making her way out now. So far, there haven't been any major incidents, but there are really long lines at some of the polling stations around the country. We went to a couple of rural communities outside of El Alto, and things were going quite smoothly there. It was not militarized. There's not a lot of police presence, as you saw in some of the strategic areas where the de facto administration has sent military and police.
I didn't get to him. Yeah, they don't like her. Remember, these people were persecuted by the right-wing government. A lot of people were killed.
Oh, yeah, it was bad. It was a serious situation over there.
So it's not like that's going to go away. It's only been a year. Like a little over a year.
So she went to like a little bit more of like a ritzy area.
Yeah.
To kind of vote, and she's adored by the indigenous poor people there. And
they didn't like her over there. So Evo Morales actually made statements from Argentina, Johnny. You're right, Buenos Aires. He said he was pleased that there was no confrontation during the vote to restore democracy and asked people not to fall for the provocation. He also calls on security forces to fulfill their institutional constitutional role. He's been extremely pacifist, like some people would like him to be a little bit less pacifist. But, he's been extremely pacifist and trying to really not incite any sort of violence. And again, he also mentioned the DIEPRA here. Despite the suspension of the DIEPRA, the MAS has its own electoral control system, which I wish we would have to ensure the vote count is conducted adequately. He asked for respect for the rural vote, the last to be counted. So again, the rural vote mostly always goes to the MAS, and they are obviously the rural areas in Bolivia are mostly indigenous people who were extremely supportive of the MAS and who were also targeted by the far right fascist government that took over.
Yeah.
And so, as he says, these are the last ones to be counted, but you have to respect that because the last ones to be counted are the most progressive.
Yeah. And also the fact that this is a president who's paid attention to elections over the years, that he understands this stuff. And, when you're saying that some people said he was too passive, who I'm pretty much a pacifist of sorts, but when it came to Bolivia and what they were doing on the streets and where this kind of fascist kind of right-wing mentality had just taken over and what the troops were doing, I was like, wait a second, there are 4-to-1, I think, ratio of indigenous people to the opposition that's taking over right now. They should just wake up in the middle of the night, march into these streets, and hang these people for doing what they're doing. That's how upset and disgusted I was when they were cheating this election and throwing out Evo Morales and what they were doing to the people, the scare tactics, and who was trying to take over. But Evo knew. He understood that his elections have integrity, that they can get past this, that they can do this, and he can show the world that they can conduct fair elections and that the MAS is the party of choice, and the people, they are choosing their leaders without any Western influence whatsoever. But, fam, that last thing that he said, as far as, like, I call on the police force to abide by their constitutional duties, that's the issue right now. Are they going to do that, fam?
Right.
Because people like Elon Musk, they want their lithium. Rubio was working the phones last time. So this is a situation right now. We have to hold our breath, wait and see, and keep on updating and reporting to make sure there's a clean, transparent removal and new place of power coming in.
And Lucho for Bolivia, who is Luis Arce, finally announced, that was announced the winner of Bolivia's presidential elections. Democracy has won, is what he said. So overall, it was really good for Bolivia. It was really good in general for socialism. But a lot of people need to remember that the reason this started in the first place is because of the United States and because of our push via, the Marco Rubio and a lot of the right-wingers here, and a lot of the neoliberals, they were all in agreement when it came to Bolivia because, they could profit off of that. And Camilla's talking about the private exit polls here. that everyone had awaited, which are permitted beginning at 8 p.m., haven't been publicized and are being deliberately delayed. This is causing many to worry if they're cooking the numbers.
Right,
so this
fam?
is when Evo Morales was saying it's very strange and worrisome that at almost an hour away from the time limit for the publication of these results, they haven't been published. What's with the delay? What are they trying to hide is what he's saying. So
they eliminated exit polls, ladies and gentlemen. Why do you think the networks eliminated the exit polls? They want to hide their cheating. And that's what they're trying to do right here. And I know that they've made a push in Bolivia to say, make sure that you go do that exit poll. Mm-hmm. Your vote is not enough. We need strong exit polls as evidence that we won this election, because they're going to try to steal it. And we've seen little delays, little things going on, little mechanisms. I mean, I'm surprised that what's her name, Inez, whatever, that she announced that it appears that the other person's winning. Wow, that was very, very surprising, fam. I think she would say, let's wait till all the votes are counted, hide, and then come back with another answer down the road.
They knew that they were losing really badly. And Evo Morales, she's translating what he said. He basically said, this is his complaint about the DIEPRE. Yesterday, we denounced the scrapping of the DIEPRE a few hours before the day of the elections as suspicious. Now polling companies refuse to publish the results by exit. They are hiding the great triumph of the people represented by MAS IPSP. So this is a whole other... The part of the reason they were suspect isn't because they like that system, but mainly just because it was done at the very last minute. But I think they realized they couldn't do it because there was too many observers, too much media attention on it, and they had their own system. Again, the MAS has their own system. Oli Vargas said, on a personal level, I can't believe this is finally happening, but it's what we've always known. Despite the massacres, which we can't forget that, despite the persecution, despite U.S. intervention, the MAS is back and even more powerful. They can't put a lid on the majority of the people. That's the thing.
That's
a lot
awesome.
A lot of these people who are against Evo Morales and who say that he's, a criminal, that he's this and that,
he wants to be a dictator,
completely forget that he's literally supported by the people. So even if he were a criminal, which he obviously isn't, but even if he's supported by the people, oh well, he's supported by the people. He has so much support, and the people who want to paint him as having no support are the people that are really have more vested interest or who are completely ignorant as to what's going on in Bolivia. And from Max Blumenthal, he posted, the sounds of celebration ring out across the working class neighborhoods. La Paz, as Luis Arce of MAS is announced as the next president, winning huge in the first round.
Huge.
A dramatic repudiation of Agnes Murillo as it would be, or her as its would be successor, Carlos Mesa. So yes, that the successor of her would be Carlos Mesa, which was the guy that you guys saw that came in second place.
Yep. So good news from there. I think we got one more tweet, fam. Oh, let me turn that. Sorry. And you said the proof that the U.S. propaganda machine will not stop. Famalam.
No. I wanted to mention the Associated Press, right? Because the AP was completely publishing complete and total lies. And it really irritates me that the AP is the most trusted source in the United States, especially seeing what the YouTube's Susan Wojcicki was saying. I don't even know if you're saying it right.
No, it's I have a little Polish in me. That's Wojcicki. Trust me, I understand it. Those are the names I know how to say. So,
well, Wojcicki was talking about how they're going to only give credit to the sources that they deem are reputable, like that are like the AP, right? Like CNN. So I'm just thinking about when we report on our elections that Tuesday, like they're gonna the AP lies, you guys. Like let me show you how they lie. So they said Bolivians waited nervously for the results of Sunday's high-stakes presidential election, even as Evo Morales is preempted authorities slow vote count and declared his handpicked candidate the victory. So they're literally right off the bat, Evo Morales preempted authorities slow vote. Like he's going out of his way to really declare victory when he shouldn't be declaring victory.
Yeah.
And so I said, this is literally false. Let's read what they said, because this is what they said. And I wanted to read this part right here.
The blue?
Yeah. So they talk about Evo Morales being a prominent cocoa growers union. He was a llama herder. He had been popular, blah, 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 reducing poverty under his rule. But support was eroding due to his reluctance to leave power, increasing authoritarian impulses, in a series of corruption scandals. He shrugged aside a public vote that had set term limits and competed in the October 2019 presidential vote, which he claimed to have narrowly won outright. But a lengthy pause in reporting results fed suspicions of fraud, and nationwide protests broke out. When police and military leaders suggested he leave, Morales resigned and fled the country. Janine Añez, a conservative senator, proclaimed herself interim president and was accepted by the courts. Her administration, despite lacking a majority in Congress, set about trying to prosecute Morales and key aides while undoing his policies, helping prompt more unrest and polarization. Okay, literally the vast majority of that is completely untrue. Let me go back to what specifically I was talking about, because Morales, by the way, didn't flee. He was literally being threatened and would have been killed if he hadn't left, just like a bunch of people that were killed.
Yeah.
The people who actually voted for him, the OAS and all that bullshit that was happening was complete fabrication in order to push this coup and get rid of him and put a neoliberal right-wing type of government that's pro-capitalist in there instead. And that's what Añez did. It would be like Nancy Pelosi naming herself the president of the United States, or worse, because she was even less important than Nancy Pelosi is in our government. Yeah. I mean, that's how it was. It's just like Juan Guaido. It's not even that. It's not even that. Like she wasn't even anybody to have done that. They also forgot to mention that Añez was working with the neo-Nazis also that were in Bolivia. They also didn't talk about the fact that Evo Morales had so much support and people were fighting to vote for him and to keep him in there. He didn't just try to maintain power. He didn't want to run. The people wanted him to run. And so what he was doing was he was getting he was going to accept the presidency because people wanted him to, and then hand it over to a younger candidate. That was his plan all along. He didn't actually plan on staying there. But the United States and the Western allies paint him as this dictator who didn't want to give up power, and that these people were wanted him out. So that's why they did what they did, which is completely false. And Benjamin Norton also echoed another false part of the AP, where he exposed them.
Sound below it.
And it's in the same article. But he said, this is dystopian opposite day propaganda. In reality, Bolivia's unelected post-coup regime delayed the results, and exit polls were pushed back 4 hours. Evo Morales' party mass did its own vote audit, which showed that it won. Then the exit polls finally came out, confirming it. Because this is speaking to the fact that they were saying that Evo Morales was trying to declare his party a winner without any evidence. But again, they had their own system, which showed that they were winning, and so they used that system because they knew that the exit polls were being withheld in order to kind of silence the huge victory for the MAS that was ongoing. And Oli Vargas reminds us that the return of democracy in Bolivia wasn't just something that just happened. A lot of young people gave their lives. A lot of indigenous people lost their lives fighting against, of course, us and our coup and our allies. These are the heroes of Sacaba in Sencata, Yapacani, and Pedregal too. So many paid the ultimate price for their country, and he just has a picture of all these young people. These look like kids to me, who fought for and died for against protesting this coup and fighting for socialism to keep the Western Empire out of Bolivia. He said, I hope this victory can bring some comfort to their families. We've one step closer to justice for those killed by the Añez Murillo Mesa coup. Yeah, let's not mistaken that these people actually are complicit in murder, and they should be tried for murder as such. Because what happened was disgusting. We covered it here on the Convo Couch when it was happening, and the way they were like physically and violently attacking these people was disgusting. It was hard to watch. I remember Jonny playing so many videos of that.
See, what happened right here is that we have to learn a lesson here, guys. This is really important right here. The people of Bolivia took the elections into their own hand to make sure they had backups in place by using, whatever methods. Exit polls, we talk about this all the time. We should have, we have to find a way to do something like this to protect our vote, to make sure that they can't steal it and cheat away from us. I mean, they are so far further along the line as understanding what's going on in their elections than we are.
But
we still have people, but socialism too as well. We have to get on this level, ladies and gentlemen. We have to understand and recognize our elections for what they are. And just because Trump says they're bad, it doesn't mean that we have to say they're good. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, but ballot harvesting is really bad. I don't believe if you're not voting inside a vote center, a polling place, whatnot, if you want to cast a ballot by mail and you apply for one, there has to be tracking on that ballot and know where it comes from and where it goes. Not given up to somebody else to go put in a box anywhere. I mean, if you get loose ballots out there, you can stuff the ballot box. If you have connections to, what do you call them, nursing homes or other places and stuff, you can collect ballots and you can have an unfair election just like that. We have to put all the mechanisms in play to make sure that our elections are free and fair. And if we want to do any type of voting online, it has to be an open source system. And I think that's way down the road. You know what I'm saying? I think that's way down the road. But whatever we do right now, we have to recognize the systemic issues within our elections and get it straight and fix it, fam. If the people of Bolivia can do it, then we can do it. So let's do it. Let's make free and fair elections that are transparent in the United States across the board. So no longer can they select the person in power. We elect the person in power.
They're not going to let us do that unless we demand it.
We have to demand it. Yeah.
Enough people who are citizens, care. So real quick, I just want to show that Carlos Mesa actually accepted the defeat. He said the result is overwhelming and clear. The difference is wide. But he accepted the defeat, so you can't say that the AP news is like completely wrong,
Yeah. No, they're not wrong. They're lying.
It's lying.
They're propagandists. And those are the people that YouTube is going to use as a source during our election.
Yeah.
And when we oppose them, they're going to take us down. That's why I posted that, because I'm showing it for posterity, because I know that these fucks are going to do that. Yeah. Because the AP is literally where everybody gets their information. So if the AP is now propaganda, at least at the foreign policy level, that they're completely lying, what's to stop them from lying about our elections? What's to stop them about manipulating the news as it gets there? What's to stop them about reporting that, let's say, Biden won something or that Trump won something when they did it? I mean, they're obviously pro-Biden, right? So what's to stop the right from going crazy and being like, well, no, we're not going to accept these results because they cheated, because blah blah blah. Like, that to me is far worse than anything else, because if they do cheat, if the Democrats do cheat and the right feels like they cheated, that is going to result in some sort of civil war type of situation. And that to me is like, it's all because we don't have a transparent system. We have propaganda as media, and we're screwed in that way. Yeah. We're screwed in that way.
Where are we at? What kind of bizarro world are we in, this situation where the Republicans are going to be looking at the Democrats trying to cheat with the ballots, whatnot? You know what I'm saying? Usually it's always the other way around. And what the Democrats should have done, if they were really for one person, one vote, they should have went out there and secured everybody on those voter rolls to make sure that their vote counts. But you see what they did is in the primary, they cheated those people off the voter rolls. So now they're stuck in no man's land trying to get them back on, when they're suppressing the same vote in the general, the Republicans, that the Democrats did in the primary. So instead of going out there and saying, we're going to make sure it's a vote by mail, whatnot, they should have secured the voter rolls and said, we're going to make sure these people are secure on the voter rolls and that their vote will count. The people that are disenfranchised, they didn't do it. They just tried to cheat in a different way. They tried to out-cheat the cheaters. And that's what they've been doing. And they've been a better cheater now since 2016, since they did it to the progressives in the 2016 primary. And they've been going full throttle with it, because why? They went to court, and not only did they get away with saying that they cheat, they said they had the right to cheat, and they're okay doing it. So the ends justify the means for the Democratic Party, and they're going to just continue to cheat and try to cheat better than the Republicans. It's a sad state of affairs.
They're going to try to out-cheat each other.
This is ridiculous. America.
Bolivia, a third world country,
can do it.
Has better elections
systems
than we do. Just a reminder. And they also have a socialist now, president.
Yeah.
A socialist majority.
Yeah.
And real quick, I saw Redfish post this today. It says, a year ago, in the midst of the U.S.-backed military coup in Bolivia, left-wing mayor Patricia Arce was captured, beaten, had paint thrown on her her hair chopped off and was paraded through the streets by right-wing thugs who wanted to intimidate supporters of Evo Morales and the movement towards socialism. Yesterday, she was elected senator. So
that was the woman.
She is.
She was just like Evo, Johnny. Very graceful. Told her people not to retaliate. I mean, they dragged her through the streets. They were pulling her on a motorcycle. It was torture what they did to her. They painted her all red, chopped off her hair. When we reported this, when this was going on, but the fact that, thank you so much for pointing out that now she's a senator. I mean, wow, the way these people did this, the way Evo did this, we've always talked about how great of a leader Evo is and what he's done for his indigenous people. And really, to tell you the truth, he hasn't gone too overboard. He's been a compromise. There's still, businesses and capitalism existing within Bolivia and stuff. You know what I'm saying? He just nationalizes and socializes the main part of their resources. I mean, it's a great compromise. And I think Lula was one of those type of presidents as well. We need to look for more like this, where we can say, hey, we have to have social safety nets and workers need to have given rights and a fair, decent living while we still exist for you schmucks over here to do what you want to do.
The common misconception is that socialism doesn't have any sort of markets, and that's entirely false. It's not that it's a compromise. It is socialism, but it's not communism. It's socialism. It's called market socialism, where there are markets and there's still businesses, but the economy is primarily non-capitalist. It's not dependent on the United States. It's not at the level where Venezuela is, but it's definitely on a socialist level where you're talking about the social safety nets and stuff. That socialism doesn't mean that there are no markets. The abolishment of property comes when you're talking about a full-on type of communism state where you're there, nobody owns anything because property is everybody and everything belongs to everybody. That's a sort of Marxist point of view. Not every single communist believes in that as well. There's anarcho-communists that believe that you can do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anybody else. It tends to be where I fall mostly. But the
democratic socialism is important too as well. You know what I'm saying? What Bernie was bringing was this whole brand, which I hated the fact that he had to run away from it because the empire education lumps socialism and communism together, not understanding like, oh, no. Democratic socialism is a capitalist system. Markets will still exist. And, he had to run away from that because why? And Donald Trump was ahead of that in the beginning when he would say, but crazy Bernie, socialist, communist, and he was feeding into that whole, I'm like, hold on, dude, you're talking about two
Bernie
different
Sanders
fucking
is left
systems
of center.
over here.
It's democratic socialism. The reason I criticize it so much, it's because it's not real socialism. It's still tied to capitalism, and I don't like that. But that just goes to show you how really far right our country is when somebody that's still pushing capitalism, that's still pushing this sort of social democracy thing that is pretty much just capitalism with social safety nets is pushed as a socialist, which he is not. And in order to understand like the definitions of socialism and communism, you have to know that in Marxist theory, socialism is what you need to have before you get to communism. Yeah. It's not the same thing necessarily. So people in America don't know really much about it.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
Fucking Trump was feeding the low-informed voter pudding is what he was giving them. They were eating it. Now, just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, the main reason for regime change is always what? Resource extraction. That's the number one reason. They always say the elections are fraud and they have to extract resources. Now, we knew what was going on in Bolivia, right, Johnny? What was going on in Bolivia? What do they need? What do the American needs? And what do people like Elon Musk who make the comments, we'll coup who we want to coup? What do they want?
Lithium.
Oh, all that lithium that the Chinese won the majority of the contracts. That's what happened. Marco Rubio started working the phones with the opposition. I wonder how much Trump knows about this. I really do. I'd love to see an investigation, get into some more phone calls. Just like I could like to see the phone calls tapped on Obama for talking to Buttigieg and Klobuchar about our elections. Let's tap into some phone calls that the Americans really want to see. So, Johnny, what did you find out about what we want to coup?
Yeah, Tesla stocks went down 2%. Significant, I guess. Does it not say something about Tesla that their stocks plummet when a fascist loses power?
Because they need those natural resources. They need that lithium.
Talking about capitalism, yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah, because most of your capitalism around the country depends on resource extraction. It depends on these major companies going in and raping other countries of their natural resources. That's what our capitalist system is built on. Because we have this crony capitalism that's just reaping just violence everywhere around the world.
Capitalism in general reaps violence around the world, fam. I'm gonna fight you on that one. Capitalism eventually
I'm not the person to fight.
always capitalism always. Let's stop with the crony. Yeah. Capitalism is crony in itself. It always literally leads to where we're at right now. And the worst part of it is, while we are exploiting the resources and killing people everywhere else, it's not like we are getting the benefit. We're not getting the benefit. The people that are getting the benefit are the aristocracy in this country. You look around you. We're not even getting anything out of the murder and the resource extraction and the sanctions and the exploitation of all these people in third world countries. We're not even benefiting from that. So in case you didn't care about all those people, you're not even getting any of it for yourself. It's all going to the top. So really, there's no point, even if you are a psychopath, to really support this because you're not getting anything out of it.
Well, you can buy yourself a Tesla now with all the lithium you have and put yourself in debt. So it's you know what I'm saying, while they're making trillions.
It just sucks because the Teslas are really good cars and they're not dependent on that. But
he's gonna have a competitor. He's gonna have a competitor. So he pissed some people off. We don't need Elon Musk products. We can get somebody else. The hell with that donkey. We'll find somebody else.